of me. It's one of the things that I think made Jim Shooter mad. I mean, just to be, what I prided myself on was my professionalism. And that was a very unprofessional thing to do.
But you're not talking back in 65 or 66, so that. You're talking a little later?
No, it was later, yeah.
Yeah, because that was certainly nothing that anybody, me, Stan, or saw. Very good.
Well, it was one of those Twilight Zone things, and I think Jim was looking for a reason to be mad.
Hard to imagine.
Somebody told me this morning when I mentioned Jim Shooter's name that he said, "Nice guy, what a nice guy." I didn't say a word, and I'm not going to say anything now.
All right, what we're going to do now, of Green Lantern and Green Arrow, how hard was that to get that made, that comic made?
To get that made?
Yeah.
Piece of cake, waltz time. I don't think that Julie ever told anybody we were going to do it. Because Julie used to play he played fast and loose with the rules that were stupid. So like there was a rule about you can't have continued stories, and Julie had them once a year as a regular part of his run. So I once asked him, why did they let you get away with that? And he says, I didn't ask. And I think that in Julie's mind, Green Lantern and Green Arrow was going to be an interesting comic book that he would enjoy working on. I don't think that any of us, possibly excepting Neil, anticipated the huge reaction that we got.
Now, didn't that actually, I know it didn't come out after Stan Lee's issues, although the drug issues.
Yes.
No, I mean, yeah, I know it, yeah, that's correct. It came out after, but legend has it that it was actually made before those issues. Is that true?
That would depend on printing schedules. I have a sense that the Spider-Man drug story and what we did came out at about the same time. I mean, what we became the pet company in Time Warner when the Republican liberal mayor of New York asked to write text-based sparks. Well, I think the guys in the big office didn't know much about comics, but they knew mayors. They knew authority figures. This was, in the shadow of the Eisenhower years, where conformity was considered to be a virtue. Probably some of you are appalled by that. But then, that's where Roy and I grew up, believing if we were going to listen to what our authority figures were telling us, we had to want to be conformists. So, Roy, a while back, mentioned that I had interests outside Marvel Comics. And that's true. And it's probably partially responsible for the good work I did, because I was talking with Andy Nascenti and a few other people who did not come up as comic book fans. They came up as storytellers, and they saw this as a venue that they could use. And so, I mean, Devin Grayson was raised on a commune in Northern California. Her mother was a Jungian therapist. The people who did really original work were the people who didn't know what comics were and who had outside interests. When I was hiring writers, it's one of the questions I asked, what do you read? And if the answer was Spider-Man, and that was the end of the answer, then I thought, this guy is probably not a good fit. You can't really tell ahead of time, but I had very good luck hiring assistants. It's time for somebody else to ask a question.
We got wild heroes. Conan, I mean, because let's be honest, Roy, when he first got to write Spider-Man, he throws him right to the Savage Land with Khazar. And what's so funny is Roy writes all these crazy barbarian heroes. And we got meek and mild Roy Thomas. It's like he's just but here was a wild man. So Roy, creating those characters and
Well, everything was different. There's not much similarity. The only thing between those two characters that would be the fact that they're both, Indian or Native American, whatever, phrase would be used. And my one thing I did bring in, and this worked out well because Stan liked the idea of bringing in other ethnic groups to some extent. He didn't work at it real hard. He made certain, for example, in crowd scenes and different other situations, other characters, he made sure that the groups were somewhat racially integrated in a time when that wasn't really being done at DC Comics. But not nearly as much. He took that very consciously. And I sort of carried it to the next level, I suppose, just looking for things. I decided that, you had superheroes, they should be from different places. They shouldn't all be, the same ethnic. Oh, granted, Krypton is Paradise Island, but I'm talking, so I started making up characters like Banshee and X-Men, who was Irish, and right away I wanted to, within one issue when I was starting to write X-Men, the first superhero series I did regularly, I wanted to introduce a sixth member who was Japanese or Japanese American, and Stan, wouldn't let me. It just too soon to do that. He wasn't sure the artist would draw them right and that, so I had to wait a couple of years and then introduce Sunfire. So I just believed in doing that kind of thing. Of course, Wolverine came out of that too, just because I wanted a Canadian, And so, I didn't know what Canadian would be and how amazing it would be, but there it was. But the thing is that, Red Wolf was just, there was a lot of stuff about, Indian rights and, whatever phrase was being used at the time, back at the turn of the 70s and so forth. So I made up Red Wolf, and not a great wild character. I didn't even look straight out of an old Western and put a wolf's head on him. But he was a little bit different. Arak, of course, had a totally different origin in that my wife made him up. I was the one who was being paid to do this, but when I went to DC, they wanted me.
Dan's gonna kill me. Dan Thomas, right here.
DC wanted me to do a Conan type character, and so forth. That's fine with me. And I thought about maybe getting another Robert E. Howard character. I had a good relationship. There wasn't anything as good as Conan, and Cull was taken, but we could have taken. There was a Cormac McCart and someone who could have done something with it. And that was set in kind of historical time around the 8th, 9th, 10th century Dark Ages kind of thing. And Dan came up with this idea, something about about the idea of what about an Indian, again the phrase Indian just for use it, what about an Indian discovering discovering Europe, the opposite of the Europeans coming to America. And that really intrigued me. So we began to work, and she's an excellent researcher, so she did a lot of research on it. I still have a lot of those at home, and that came out of that. But basically, I think Denny would say too that at least in my thing, first of all, I did, although I mentioned like being so involved with comics and everything like that, day and night kind of thing, but at the same time, I read fairly widely, and everything. I read a lot of classical literature. I loved reading nonfiction, history in particular. It was always a passion of mine. This you may have been able to tell if you ever read a comic I wrote. And but basically you just sat down and you had to make up something, and and all of a sudden something's due tomorrow, and whatever you've been reading or whatever you've been thinking about or something, something comes up and with a little desperation, and there it is, and I wish I could say, I had some great plan to bring these things in. If I had a great plan, I would have written the first Wolverine story.
You would have created more characters.
And if I'd known they were eventually going to start paying money and making movies about them, I would have made up so many Marvel characters. Only Stan Lee, writers, writing non-artists, would have made up as many. As it is, I avoided it like the plague because I knew I wouldn't own them, and I knew I was going to get so angry if TV and movie and commercial possibilities were done to these characters, and I didn't get money and credit for it. Not necessarily controlling them and owning them, but getting money and credit. So I avoided like the plague. That's why you have a Black Knight. I would do a Black Knight because there have been other Black Knights. So I thought, well, I didn't really totally make this up. So if I don't get anything for this, it's okay. Or with Warlock, I took the him character. I could have made up a new character just as easily, but I thought, well, if I don't know the character, I'm just going to take a character that's already existing and do that. And it is one reason I was happy to do Conan that I didn't make up, or Red Sonja I took from a Howard story. I just scrupulously avoided doing anything that would help make my later life easier. Then how did you come up with were you planning months and months ahead what characters you were going to do, or did you have to sort of wing it like the rest, like most of us?
The only one that we planned ahead of time for was GHUL. It was Julie Schwartz and me deciding we're using the Batman stock company too much. Let's not do another Penguin story. Let us set out to create a major villain. So what Julie had was the words GHUL. It's Arabic and it means head of the demon. What I had was a typewriter. He sent me home and I came up with it then, but mostly, no, it's ad-lib. I am getting royalties for Maxie Zeus. I thought, well, here's the brilliant way that Maxie Zeus came into being. It's midnight, it's Sunday night, and I need to beat this deadline, and I need a villain, I need a gangster. Any gangster will do. Any gangster, and I've got to get this story done. So I look around my little closet office, and I see nothing of inspiration, and then I look down and I see my typewriter. I'm working on an Olympic typewriter. Olympus. And then you have the head guy of Olympus is Zeus, and Maxie is 2 syllables, and it sounds gangstery. I thought, this character will do for this one story, and he will go away, and I won't forget that he ever existed. And then cut to like 15 years later, and I got a very handsome check, and I called Paul Levitz and said, I would love to keep this money, but I didn't do anything to earn it. And he said, oh, you did. We used Maxie Zeus in a video game. Maxie has had a long, and they've used him on television a lot. He's had a long afterlife, but I swear, I thought he is a plot device. That's all he is. What's the plot over Diesel?
Maxie Zeus is a plot device. Wolverine is created because they want more Canadian readers. There you go. Is there another question? Taking Batman from the Silver Age into the Bronze Age and making him better.
Well, I mean, better is a judgment, and we try not to be judgmental, us Buddhists. What I wanted to do always was to keep the stuff contemporary. Here's the lesson that comic books have learned from Julie Schwartz. If you are given the assignment of updating a character, look at that character, read the stuff that's available, and then figure out what made the character popular in the first place, what, if anything. And that you don't touch. Batman will always be the orphan whose parents were murdered in front of him. Superman will always be the refugee from a shattered planet. And be able to fly and that stuff. That you keep intact, and everything else you change to make it reflect the reality outside the window. Because if I had written and edited the Batman that I loved when I was 6, and man, I loved it when I was 6, I would have had a very intensely loyal audience of about 6 people my age. But that would have been the wrong thing to do. I made exactly that mistake with Captain Marvel. I tried to recreate the stuff I loved when I was 6. No, I should have tried to reinvent him. That's what you do when you do this work. You reinvent the character according to the dictates of the medium you're working in. A movie is not, a comic book is not a teleplay. They all have their strengths, they all have their weaknesses. You figure out what those are and how to use them.
Favorite character that you co-created?
Name a character that...
Your favorite character that you co-created?
Favorite character I co-created.
Actually, Zeus.
Well, there was Harold. My wife loved Harold. I didn't think too much, but he was in the question for a while. All I can do is talk about what has been useful to me professionally. Batman has been very useful to me professionally because once the rules are in place, you can tell any story you want to tell with that character without violating what you've established. That is an enormous gift to a storyteller, and that was my toy to play with for 17 years. So I didn't co-create Batman. Arguably, I co-created the current version of him, and thank you, Bill Finger, and thank you, everybody.
And I wouldn't say arguably, I think definitely. Roy?
Well, I always liked, a little like Dave Denny with the Batman, I tended to like the characters that somebody else created better than the ones I did, you know. I like the Thing better, you know, as a Marvel character than any character that I ever made up. And I love writing the Thing. And Conan, who was certainly not my creation. I suppose if it was on TV, it would have been said created for television by Roy Thomas, you know. So because you know you have to change it to a different medium, but I didn't create it. So of the characters I created, I don't have I suppose the Vision was one of the fondest of it a certain way, but although again he's based on an old Jack Kirby character up to a point visually, if not in terms of being an android. But actually the things that I enjoyed and favorite would be were not characters but concepts, which were the Invaders and the All-Star Squadron. History made me want to do stories set in World War II. You know, I suppose where Denny was very looking for stuff. You know, and his stuff was very often around. It was the relevant comic, in the best sense of the word. You know, and everything. You know, my idea was the opposite. You know, retreat sometime before any of our readers were born, and see if you could possibly make a comic that would sell. But they sold okay. They were never going to be likely to be best-selling comics, but they were comics I enjoyed. And when I gave them enough energy, and DC didn't come up with some dumb crisis. But I enjoyed that. And by the time I did that in Invaders, and even more so with All-Star Squadron, I love comic books. I've always loved them as a medium. But I was just, you know, I was kind of tired of it in a certain sense, and I just didn't care about them as a commercial medium anymore. I was only interested in doing what I wanted to do, which is not a smart way to do commercial writing. But I wanted to find a way to do what I wanted to do, and Invaders was part of it, and All-Star Squadron even more so. So I suppose those are the things that I enjoyed more. But if it was a character, it would have been, I suppose, the Vision. But even there, you know, I made up the character. He looks a lot like he looks mostly like a Jack Kirby character with a few changes, like that's what put a diamond on his chest, because every character should have a chest symbol, although I forgot to have one put on Ghost Rider. I should have crossed both. But at the same time, you know, it was Stan Lee who told me, you know, who called me one day, and I was always complaining, wanting to bring back Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor, all of whom he had made me toss out of the Avengers. And I said, I can't have you fun write this book. I don't feel I can do a good job with just Goliath and Hawkeye and a bunch of, you know, losers. I took out Thor and Iron Man. I said, yeah, you took out Thor and Iron Man, but you had Captain America America. And Captain America, while brought back from the past and not having his own series all the time, was a star from the beginning. The minute he entered Avengers, he was the star, he was the leader. I said, you never did Avengers without one of those three characters, if not two or three of them. And so, but, you know, I kept sneaking him back in, and he making him take him out. And finally, one day he called me in, why I do not know, and he said, maybe it's time for a new Avenger, but this time he put in Hercules, thinking maybe that would mollify me, because that was like Thor, but he wasn't Thor. And I had, you know, made up the Black Knight a couple years, none of them were as good. And one day he called me in and he said, I want there to be a new Avenger, and come with a new Avenger. You know, I said, so I immediately was going to bring in the Vision. I said, I'm just going to, he was this guy from another dimension who came in through smoke or something, and he got trapped. I was just going to have him get trapped in our dimension, and he was a weird alien, and we'd play around with that. And Dave said, I said, nah, he wasn't that much of a character, nobody would like him, you know. So we're not always right, not even Stan. But he said, no, I'll tell you, he says, I want you to have a new Avenger, and he's an android. And he didn't say why. He never said to explore the human condition or, you know, anything like that. He just said, make him an android. I said, that's it? That's the whole thing? He said, yeah, whatever you do, as long as he's an android. So I made him an android, called him the Vision, and we both got what we want, except that, you know, I wanted to color him differently. And Stan called me in right after it's done. He says, and the book comes out. Stan, by this point, trusted me enough that he didn't bother to check things too carefully, so that by the time the stuff comes out, at this stage of my stuff, it's already in print. It's too late to do anything about it. And he sees this nice-looking Vision, John just doesn't have drawn, but he's got this red face. And he says, why is his face red? I said, well, well, the old one was light green, but we got a HUL. Here's a quote Thor. We've got blue Atlanteans. I said, you know, if we make him white, our paper, the paper we go on is so crappy that you can read the other side. You know, the other side. So you can't just be white, which would be a logical character thing. So I just decided to make him red, just because it was kind of a weird bright color. He said, well, nobody's gonna like a guy who's, you know, red faced alien. So, you know, I said, well, Mark Newman told you nobody was gonna like a guy called Spider-Man, you know. So while the Visionary became Spider-Man, he did become, for quite a number of years, the most popular, certainly the most popular Avenger in those days who didn't get his own book. So, you know, so I'm kind of pleased about that. You know, I'm glad to hear that if they did kind of kill him off in the movies, at least they're going to bring him back as part of a TV show set for some inexplicable reason in the 50s. But, you know, I'll take what I can get.
You guys personally are proud of that you've accomplished in the field? Yes, sir. In the field.
In the field, so hitting a home run doesn't count. That's good because I've never hit one of those. The things that I'm happiest about are the seduction of innocence, which was about landmines. I didn't know there was a landmine problem on this planet until Jeanette Kahn, who often I got credit for stuff she initiated. But she dragged me into a meeting. There were a lot of suits and ties in that meeting, not what you'd expect in a comic book company. And I walked out of there 90 minutes later saying, my God, this is appalling. We've got to do something. What a landmine is something about the size and appearance of a shoe polish can. A kid picks it up and loses an arm. And that's what they want. They don't want the kid to die. They want him to be maimed so he is a burden to his family. And it is a horrible problem not here. That's why we don't hear about it. The guy who is head of the civilian end of the landmine effort here is missing part of his leg from when he was hiking in the Golan Heights. So we did a comic book about that. We did another one. I'm suddenly aware that I'm in Phoenix. Anti-gun. I saw that coming. Our friend who running down to the corner to use the payphone because his phone wasn't working, and he was shot dead on the street, on Jane Street, in Greenwich Village. And that crime is now something like 40 years old, and they will never solve it. And we decided we had to do something. So I was kind of the designated House liberal, and I was going to write a story. And then I realized if I take this job on, I will be calling John Ostrander all the time for information, because this is a genuine, his twin brother works for the NRA. So John did a fine job. And the result was that Douglas Wilder, the governor of Virginia, was trying to get some laws changed down there, and then one of his assistants told me the NRA didn't bother to mount a counter effort because, for God's sake, it's Virginia. Well, he won. Wilder won, and that law got written into, or that bill got written into law. Mary Fran and John's wife Kim and I were invited to watch this happen. I got to throw my wet raincoat on the couch of the Royal King Mansion thing. Well, I know that this is a hot topic and a lot of you disagree with me, but I think we may have saved some lives. And then John did a whole bunch of other things, such as he went. My wife was teaching 8th grade English, and he went down in the ghetto in Harlem, outside Harlem, and he went down there and he talked to her students, and he came back and wrote realistic dialogue. I no mofos or anything like that, but given obvious restrictions, it was the first time real street talk got into a comic book. And then he donated the royalties to the school. And then when he went on television to debate with the NRA, he did a brilliant job. So all hail to John. There are other things that I think are good. Examples of writing craft. But, and I'm not denigrating them. I'm proud to have been able to do that stuff. But mostly the ones that I mentioned are the ones that I think are important and that gave me the most personal satisfaction.
I can't and won't attempt to follow that with anything noble, because I did a couple of old message stories, but that was just never my particular forte. So I'll just keep it very simple at everything. But in my part, that I'm not especially proud of any one thing I did. Fortunately, I'm not too awfully ashamed of any one thing I did in comics. Maybe I just don't have a sense of perspective. I don't know. But if there was one thing and everything, it's not so much proud as I am happy or grateful, really, to have been able to, by the sheer dint of the luck of having gotten in the comics field when I have, and having an ogre of a boss that forced me to accept the first next job offer I got, that I was able to be at least a witness starting in 1965 and a minor part of the Marvel Comics thing, in which already Stanley, in conjunction with Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko and a couple of other artists, had begun to change comics. I think in most ways for the better, not at all. There's a lot of good things that on the other side too. And I'm just not so much proud as I said, as I am happy and grateful to have been a part of it. And that more than any one creation or any one comic book or accomplishment. If there was anything, the second choice would be having brought Conan the Barbarian to comics, because I think Robert E. Howard was an extremely good writer of not just purple prose, but of poetic purple prose at his best, and it was nice to be able to bring that to a different audience, to a new audience that would maybe, you know, it wasn't exactly literary, but it was I felt it was kind of a step up for comics in a certain way. And then, of course, you know, when that happens, then people begin to look for other things. They begin to bring other influence for other things. So Conan may have influenced things that, you know, you would not normally think of as being related to sword and sorcery or to comic books. But that's about it. Nothing very noble, but, you know,
Well,
we all do what we can.
Unfortunately, we're at